Visual research. The role of the light source in establishing the tonal structure. Hypothesis. Taking into account light sources in creating a drawing or painting contributes to the formation of a tonal structure that creates harmony and depth of the image. Light illumination defines contrasts, helps to organize space, and improves the perception of volumes and shapes of objects. The purpose of the study: to study how the use of light sources affects the establishment of the tonal structure of the work, creating smooth transitions between light and dark areas. To analyze how light directs the perception of a composition, defines accents, and creates an atmosphere. Evaluate how artists use light sources to achieve depth and three-dimensionality effects in an image. The main aspects of the study. The role of light in creating tonal relationships. Light and shadow. Light and shadow create tonal contrast that help separate objects from the background, as well as highlight key elements of the composition. As a result of proper lighting, objects become more voluminous and realistic. Penumbra and reflex light. There are transitions between light and shadow, such as penumbra, where light falls at an angle, and reflex light, reflected light that brightens dark areas. These elements add tonality and depth to the image. The light source as the organizing principle of the composition. Light direction. The direction of the light source determines which parts of the object will be illuminated and which will be in shadow. This affects how the viewer perceives the shape and volume. For example, side lighting can emphasize texture and relief, while front lighting will reduce shadows and create a flatter image. Light intensity. The brightness of the light affects the contrast between light and dark areas. Strong lighting can create sharp contrasts, while soft lighting leads to smoother transitions and less pronounced shadows. Light as a means of creating atmosphere and focus. Contrast of light and dark areas in a work of art. Contrasts of light and shadow can be used to create dramatic effects, for example, in Baroque painting. The use of harsh light and shadow helps to direct the viewer's attention to the key elements of the composition. Using light to focus attention. A light source can create focal points in a work by illuminating certain areas, which attracts the viewer's attention to these parts, for example, in the works of Caravaggio. Historical and theoretical context. Renaissance and chiaroscuro. During the Renaissance, artists such as Leonardo da Vinci developed a chiaroscuro system, exploring how light can define shape and space. Leonardo's work in the field of light and shadow science, as well as his research on light modeling, became the basis for subsequent artistic practices. Baroque and dramatic light. In Baroque painting, for example Rembrandt and Caravaggio, light is used not only to create volume, but also to enhance the emotional impact of works. Light has become a tool for creating tension and drama. Literature review. Classical theories of chiaroscuro and tonal relations. Leonardo da Vinci. A treatise on painting. Leonardo da Vinci is considered one of the first to develop the theoretical foundations of chiaroscuro and explain how light sources and shadows can be used to convey volume and shape. In his work, he argues that light and shadow not only model objects, but also serve as a means of organizing space and composition. This research became the basis for understanding how light can create tonal relationships in painting. Richard Schmidt, Theory of Harmony. Schmidt pays attention to the importance of contrast of light and shadow in creating visual harmony and expressiveness. He examines how light sources affect the perception of depth and space in a composition, while emphasizing that the accuracy of light and shadow transmission plays a key role in the aesthetics of the work. Renaissance and Baroque works. Giorgio Vasari, The Lives of the Best Painters, Sculptors, and Architects. Vasari in his work not only describes the biographies of great artists, but also focuses on how Renaissance artists used light and shadow to create volume and depth. He points to the development of chiaroscuro techniques that allowed the painters to achieve a high level of naturalness and realism. Lorenzo Ciberti, Letters and Treatises. Ciberti, who worked during the Renaissance, considered light and shadow as means of creating liveliness of images. he described how the use of directional light helps to determine the shape and relief of objects, creating the illusion of three-dimensionality. Johann Joachim Winckelmann, The History of the Arts of the Ancient World. Winckelmann, although he does not directly devote his work to chiaroscuro, points out the importance of illuminated and darkened parts of works to create a dramatic effect. For Baroque artists such as Rembrandt and Caravaggio, light became an instrument of dramatic expression, which is confirmed by his descriptions.
Baroque and light in art. Carlo Giorgi, The Art of Chiaroscuro. Giorgi explores the use of light in works of Baroque art. Special attention is paid to artists such as Rembrandt and Caravaggio, who used lighting to create tension, contrast, and emotional expressiveness. Giorgi argues that in the Baroque, light becomes not only a technical tool, but also a symbol of spirituality, divine intervention, or the inner state of the characters. Rembrandt and Caravaggio, in the context of light and shadow. The classic works of these artists demonstrate how light not only models volume, but also emphasizes the emotional component. Caravaggio uses light sharpening to focus attention on the key elements of the composition, creating drama and directing the viewer's gaze. In turn, Rembrandt uses light to create softer, almost intimate transitions between light and shadow, emphasizing the emotional complexity of the characters. Modern Studies of Chiaroscuro and Tonal Relations. The Technique of Professional Lighting by Juice J. Marchesi is a book that discusses the theory of light, light sources for photography, exposure measurement, filter techniques, and other aspects of professional lighting. The literature on the role of the light source in establishing the tonal structure confirms the importance of light as an integral part of the composition and perception of a work of art. Historically, light and shadow serve to create volume and depth, as well as to focus the viewer's attention. Modern research also focuses on how light affects the emotional perception and conceptual aspects of works of art.